The Silent Hunt, duration at approximately 4 minutes and 20 seconds. Maggie's heart pounded as she silently crept through the dark, creaky hallway of their house. The night air was thick with dread. It was almost as if the walls themselves were holding their breath, waiting for something, someone. Her fingers brushed against the cool, peeling wallpaper as she glanced nervously over her shoulder. She could hear her mother's soft, almost melodic whispers echoing from the other side of the house. Maggie had always known that there was something wrong with her mother. At first it had just been odd behavior, things that could be explained away, but tonight Maggie knew the truth. Her mother wanted her dead. It all started when Maggie turned 18. The dreams began. Terrifying, cryptic nightmares of her mother standing over her bed, whispering strange things that Maggie couldn't understand. The whispers had slowly grown louder, more insistent, more malevolent, and then the incidents began to happen. Things moved in the house. Furniture was knocked over, doors slammed shut with no one there. Shadows danced across the walls when Maggie was alone, always when her mother wasn't around. But it wasn't until last week that Maggie realized the full extent of her mother's madness. She had overheard her mother talking to someone on the phone, though no one was there. She only caught fragments of the conversation, but they were enough to send a chill down her spine. She'll be mine just as she was meant to be. Since then, Maggie had tried everything to escape, but every time she tried to leave, her mother would find a way to stop her. A locked door, a missing car key, or some other strange obstacle that always led her back to the house. Tonight, Maggie had finally gathered the courage to escape for good. She had waited for the right moment when her mother had gone quiet. That was always the scariest part. The silence. When her mother was silent, Maggie knew she was watching. She could feel her mother's eyes burning through the walls, lurking in the shadows, waiting for her to make a mistake. Now, standing at the foot of the stairs, Maggie's breath hitched in her throat. She had to be quick. Every second counted. She dashed toward the front door, but as her fingers touched the doorknob, a voice, cold as ice, whispered from behind her. "Where do you think you're going, Maggie?" Her blood ran cold. She turned slowly, her pulse hammering in her ears. Her mother stood in the doorway of the living room, her eyes glinting with a maddening mix of love and malice. A wide, unsettling grin stretched across her face, showing teeth that were far too sharp. "You've been such a disappointment," her mother purred, taking a slow step forward. "But don't worry, darling, we'll be together soon." Maggie's legs shook beneath her, but she couldn't let fear win. This was it. There would be no turning back. With a sudden burst of adrenaline, Maggie bolted toward the back door, her mother's voice trailing after her, more distorted now, like the echoes of a nightmare. "Run all you want, Maggie. You'll never escape me." The door flew open as Maggie rushed outside, the night air cold against her skin. She wasn't free yet. Her mother's footsteps followed, quickening, almost like they were not human anymore. Fast, unnervingly fast. Maggie didn't dare look back as she ran through the darkened yard, the trees casting long, crooked shadows around her. The silence was gone. Now it was a chase, and her mother was a predator that would not stop until she caught her. She could hear the whispers again, but this time they weren't in her mind. They were all around her, seeping from the ground, the trees, the very air she breathed. Her heart raced, and she could feel the dread suffocating her. Then she saw it, the woods ahead. Her escape, she had to make it. With every ounce of strength she had left, Maggie pushed herself forward, her legs burning with exhaustion. She reached the edge of the trees, but before she could dive into the safety of the woods, a cold hand gripped her wrist, pulling her back with a force that almost shattered her bones. Maggie screamed, but it was swallowed by the thick, heavy air. She was dragged back into the yard, her body unwilling to obey as the hand twisted her arm painfully behind her. Her mother stood before her, not even breathing hard, her eyes glowing with a feral intensity. "Why do you think you can run from me, Maggie? I created you. I made you. You can never outrun what's in your blood." With a sickening smile, her mother raised a knife, the blade gleaming like the promise of death. And in that moment, Maggie realized the truth. There was no escape, not from her mother, not from the nightmare that was her life. Her only choice was to fight. But as the blade descended, a deep, cold voice whispered from the darkness around her, like a presence older than time itself. "Run, Maggie, run and never look back." And for the first time in what felt like years, Maggie